Spider-Man. It's the Spider-Man run from the early '90s, issue number 15, and it's pretty neat because it's a crossover with Beast, who, when you think of the X-Men, lately Beast hasn't been featured much lately. He'll pop up from time to time, but Beast used to be a pretty prominent member of the X-Men. That's one of the things I've just kind of had trouble with X-Men comics in general. There's so many other characters that could be used and be used as main characters because they've been Bishop's been a leader of the team before. Storm's been a leader of the X-Men, but Beast is featured in here, and it's a fun issue because it not only is has a lot of action. There's moves at a pretty breakneck pace, but at the same time, there are some really nice character moments, even between Beast and Spider-Man. So at first, the comic starts off with Mary Jane and Peter Parker dealing with the fact of having a kid, and they're really concerned of what are they gonna do. What if the kid comes out deformed because Peter's genetic code or DNA has been changed because he got bitten by a radioactive spider. So they don't know what the complications of the pregnancy could be. They even mentioned the whole birth of Franklin Richards, Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman's kid, right? Because he's a mutant. If my understanding is correct, he's a reality warper. I don't think they retconned that or changed that. I think even in Jonathan Hickman's run, they put a lot of emphasis on Franklin Richards' powers and abilities and how powerful he is. They hinted that he may be a Omega level. I think it was kind of more like he was an Alpha level mutant, but possible Omega level mutant. But while it starts off, they kind of just don't know what to do. They're kind of at this crossroads because they're and I like how they address this. They're weighing all the concerns. They have a kid who's going to be there. Mary Jane has a really busy career. Peter, he's Spider-Man. Any day could be his last, which they address in here. The Spider-Man comics right now, kind of Marvel comics in general, there really doesn't seem to be any sense of danger. The heroes will, for the most part, come back out the circumstances alive, but in this issue, it really nails down that being Spider-Man is a dangerous deal. There's so many people trying to come after him. There's even a moment where him and Beast address the fact that, hey, could you please not really let anyone know or keep this under wraps that I have a wife, because they'll try to get at them to get to me. So Peter, leaves the situation, tries to go to Beast because Beast is the jack of all trades, physicist, biologist, chemist, doctor. The guy knows practically any major field known to man, so Beast is the best person to go to. And I think at this moment, it's 1990, I think, when this came out, 91. So he may have left. He might still be with X Factor. He might still be an Avenger. I'm not quite sure. I have to look at that again, check the dates. But yeah, so while that happens, it's just pretty much a mutant fight between one of these characters and Beast. And while it's going on, it's pretty awesome. Beast is always known as the intellectual, and he prefers to talk things out instead of fight. But Eric Larson does a pretty good job of doing action between the two of them, and it's a pretty brutal fight. It takes both Beast and Spider-Man to take this lady out because she's able to absorb their abilities. And there's even some good moments of them working together, tag teaming her, some sense of strategy. Beast is used in misdirection, and Spider-Man sneaks up on her and sucker punches her through a wall. It's pretty cool. But it also shows how it's a mutant rally, and everyone's like, death to mutants, we hate mutants, mutants are a menace. So it kind of addresses some of the concerns that he has, because once they get out the situation, they're on a rooftop, and he's talking to Beast, and Beast just rips off the Band-Aids. Like, yeah, man, there's so many problems or complications. You having a child, the child could die, Mary Jane could die, the child might come out as a mutant, or might be maldeformed, or if they are a mutant, they have to deal with discrimination. Or what if they do have your abilities? How are people going to react to a kid that has enhanced strength and agility? They'll think they're a freak. Even if they aren't, have the so-called X gene, they do have special abilities. And they're pretty much talking this out. And it's a small moment, but it's really cool. Because Peter's always been known as the guy that cracks jokes, and if people think of Spider-Man, they think, oh yeah, the guy cracks jokes, the guy has witty. but he does have some serious moments. He really does take this to heart, and he's really concerned about Mary Jane. And that's one thing I have to hand it off to him. When the relationship was written well, Peter Parker and Mary Jane have always been self-sacrificing, worried about each other. Yeah, they have selfish moments, but it gives because they have flaws. But they do a really good job of writing them like that. And Eric Larson does a good job in this. And once again, they do stick to the really cool spaghetti webbing that Todd McFarlane did. But there is a thing in here where another like Frankenstein beast shows up. It's hinted at the beginning of the issue that something you don't know what it is, breaks out the hospital, and it's some weird like amphibian rock monster type thing, and it takes both of them to take them out. And it's actually one of those things. The fight goes on, and there's a lot of collateral damage. It's 3 pages of just nonstop action. A lot of really, it really shows the guy is tough because Spider-Man is no slouch. The guy is really strong, and Beast is really strong as well. And both are really agile people with enhanced speed. So the fight goes all the way down to the sewers, and they cannot take this thing out, right? There's even a point in there when Peter's fighting the thing, and he has this moment with the speech bubbles where he's just pretty much thinking to himself, is this it? I mean, is this... Because he's being drowned in the sewer, and he's like, I can't get from this dude's grasp. Beast is just knocked out, unconscious. I might die. And he starts thinking, he's like, if I had a child right now, they would be orphaned. If I died, they would go through the same thing I went through. Like my parents dying and me just being an orphan. And it's really well written because he's like, what's going to happen? I mean, what's going to happen to Mary Jane? What's going to happen to those that I care about? And he was like, this is the life that I've chosen for myself. Because he's always, doing superheroing and, with Avengers and saving people. But he's faced with his own mortality, and it's a really well-written moment that I appreciate it. They could have just said, oh, no, I'm not going to make it, but they do emphasize that, and they bring it up later on. And you find out that the kid, the Beast, is actually a kid who's a mutant, and he doesn't know how to control his powers. And his parents live in the sewers trying to hide from people. And you come through this moment where they're faced with a moment that they love their kid, but he's dangerous. But they don't want to leave him to someone else because he could be hunted, killed. I mean, people hate mutants. He would have to deal with discrimination and people trying to come after him. Beast finally wakes up from his daze of being knocked out and says, hey, we'll take care of the kid. We'll look after him. We'll treat him, teach him how to use his abilities. But he can't, run around on his own. And there's a moment where Beast pretty much says to Peter, he's like, there's one thing I forgot to mention, is that you'll love your child no matter what, mutant or no, and your kid will be a part of you. So it's not just like, oh yeah, let's have a kid and bring someone. When you're bringing someone into this world, it's not about you anymore. And they take a moment to really address this. You have another panel where Pete and Mary Jane talk to each other, and they have this moment. They're like, maybe we should wait on this. There's a lot of stuff to think about. I'm not ready. You're not ready to have a kid. We still have a life ahead of ourselves. I'm Spider-Man, and any day I could be gone. And she says the same thing. I know it's selfish, but I have a lot of things I want to do, and there's so much we're going through right now. Me just dealing with you being a superhero. And they pretty much hold it off and say, you know what, in the future we can be great parents. But right now, let's just focus on us. So it was a good issue. It's a standalone comic. If you haven't been reading the issues before this, you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. It's kind of like a one and done. But it leaves some other stuff that I guess to be continued on in later comics. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Would you be interested in more videos like this, reviews of older Spider-Man comics? I was thinking about doing like a Spider-Man rewind and find issues with Peter Parker or Mary Jane or other comics where Spider-Man is featured in. But yeah, let me know what you think. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next.